Chapter 7. The Reality. The Hindu says, if God wished to hide, God would chose man to hide in. That is the last place man would look for God. The trouble with the masses of humanity today is that they are trying to become something that is already right within. We are seeking and searching everywhere outside ourselves for God, attending countless lectures, meetings, groups, reading innumerable books, looking to teachers and personalities and leaders, when all the time God is right within. If mankind will let go of the trying and accept that they will soon be perfectly aware of the reality. Jesus told us so many times that there is no one any different from another, that each is a God being, with all the potential attributes and qualifications. We have set Jesus aside for so long, thinking that he was in a different category than ourselves. He is no different. He never claimed to be. He goes about assisting mankind all of the time. He is no mythical character any more than we are mythical characters, and in no way did he ever claim to be able to perform a miracle. They were not miracles, they were merely the fulfillment of natural law. That has been proved today. They were natural occurrences that must and will transpire for anyone if we fulfill the law. Each one of us is capable of mastering every one of the so-called difficulties we are working under, and, the moment we let go of them, they cease to exist. That may seem incredible to many, but it is an absolute fact. We bring these things upon ourselves by our own transverse thoughts. Supposing those thoughts, those words, never belonged to us, that we had never heard of them, that they had no existence in our vocabulary or our world. We know of 4 different languages today where there is not a negative word in the language, there is not a word in the past tense, or a word in the future tense. All is here and now, accomplished. If we could realize and accept that, we would soon rise out of our negative conditions. It is the name that we give a thing and the feeling with which we release it. Negative words, feelings, conditions have absolutely no power except what we individually give to them. The moment we cease feeding our energy into them, they no longer have life, and thus they cease to exist. We have proved conclusively today that because of the word, God, registered in the Bible, that book has maintained as it has. It has the greatest sale of any book in the world today. Now if that word will maintain a book, an inanimate thing, what will it do through our use of it through our own body form? It is not necessary to go around repeating the word, God, God. Just send that word forth once with definite, sincere meaning and qualified with what that expression is intended to bring about, and you will never have to repeat it. Why? Because you are right in that very soundtrack of vibration that sets up every response to your statement. That is the reason the Bible is maintained, and we carry on with just that one word with its emphasis. Then the important thing is not to negate it but hold positively to the fulfillment of our statement. Now certain individuals in India will go around with their hands up in the air saying, Om Mani Padme Om. In a little while the hand grows there and they can't bring it down. It would be just the same if we ran around saying, God, God, all the time. We can think the word and know definitely that it is ours. We are that very thing we wish to express, and we don't need to repeat it over and over at all. We simply are that. It has been said that man's greatest mistake is in trying to become God instead of simply being. He has been looking for something that is right within himself. We don't try to become, we must simply be it, we are it, and we claim it definitely. If you don't really believe that, you try it some time, for say 2 weeks. I would suggest you say it once, and know it, and then go on and be it. It is yours. It is yours to command. Heaven is the everywhere present harmony within the individual, right where you are. You have the free will, through your own thought and feeling, to make it Hades if you want to, and you don't have much trouble doing it, but, if you will spend the time you expend in attempting to bring Hades in creating and bringing heaven right here and now, you will have the manifestation of it. Know God within, always. There is the greatest blessing for humanity. See the other fellow the same as you see yourself, the Christ in every face. This is our greatest privilege. Not only that, it is the greatest training for us just to see the Christ in every person we see or know. It takes only a moment to realize that in every company you are in, and you will find it is a marvelous thing. Soon you will come to realize and accept the Christ within each and every one. We are all the same, in his likeness, always. Referring again to negative words, thoughts and feelings, we know of 2,500 people today who are associated together, who have traveled on every known means of conveyance and over thousands and thousands of miles, and they have never had an accident. Most of these people are right here in America, where the association had its inception. It was started by 4 people. You are in control of the storms, you are in control of the atmospheric conditions, every one of you. You are in control of every natural element. It doesn't matter what it is, you are master of it, and it is for you to become master of it. Instead of that, we let it get us down, as we say, and we become subordinate to the condition, or situation, or circumstance. There is not one person in this room who, if he would step forth, could not master every situation that arises, simply by knowing that he is the master. Animals are very sensitive to these things. They respond when you give them thoughts of kindness. They even recognize when you send out thoughts of kindness to others. The dog recognizes feelings immediately. We had over 1,100 dogs in Alaska for our male routes there. We had the male routes up there for a long time. We used over 1,100 dogs, before the planes came in, and, do you know, every one of our men came to the point where they never used a whip. Those dogs were just as tractable as could be, just as long as the men did not disturb or upset them. I made 9 trips with dogs over that trail, a distance of 1,800 miles. Twice I never changed a dog, and still those dogs came through in very wonderful shape. Everybody asked how I did it. I just let the dogs alone, urged them on, told them that they were all right, going ahead doing fine, and so on. The other men began doing that, and it made a great difference. If you do not fear an animal or mistreat it but praise it and encourage it, it will respond wonderfully. The moment we use a negative word, we are taking energy from our body to keep it going. We hypnotize ourselves into believing that as a fact, and that hypnotic influence is what carries us right on to repeat it again and again. Now, if we no longer permit ourselves to become hypnotized by those negative thoughts and refuse ever to repeat them again or even to think them, they disappear from our worlds completely. If we would let go of old age, lack of eyesight, and imperfections in the body, these negative conditions would not register in the physical form. Our body is being renewed all the time, and that is really the resurrection. That resurrection takes place every 9 months throughout all of humanity. We put the imprint upon those body cells ourselves by our own thoughts, our own feelings, our own speech. We are our own betrayers. We betray the Christ with the simple word, can't, every time we use the word. Every time we use a negative word, we betray the Christ within ourselves. Let us, therefore, extol the Christ, bless the body for its service, give praise and thanks for our countless blessings, and be the living manifestation of the law every moment. Questions and answers. Question: how do the Hindus look upon Jesus as compared with Buddha? Answer: they say that Buddha was the way to enlightenment, but that the Christ is enlightenment. Question: why does it seem to be so difficult to hold the mind to an ideal? Answer: we have not the definite training which those in the East have had. There, even the children have it. They are shown that when one ideal is projected, they are to keep that ideal until they have its full accomplishment. The training in the Western world is somewhat different. We are allowed to let every thought come running through, scattering our forces. If you have an ideal and fully believe in it, keep it entirely to yourself, not mentioning it to another until it is completely consolidated into form. Always keep the mind clear for that one thing which you must accomplish, not that which you will. That keeps the mind clear. The moment we allow another thought to come in, we become dual-minded. By expressing energy toward that one ideal, we become single-minded. Nor would we get into a rut or become one-track minded, for we would not need to dwell on that ideal for more than an instant if we directed every force toward it and did not scatter our forces. From then on, we simply give thanks that it is accomplished and that it is here and now. Question: are we to understand that you personally saw and even shook hands with Jesus? Answer: yes, and with many so-called masters. Those people do not claim to be different from you or me. Even the coolies in India recognize him as Jesus of Nazareth. There is nothing mysterious about it. The pictures show him as an ordinary man with a great light about him. There is nothing vague about any of these people. There is a very definite determination about them. They are vivid characters. Question: How is it that the ordinary coolie in India sees Jesus? Answer: The coolie has accepted it and lives with it, whereas we live in a condition in which we do not accept or believe that he exists. Now I have no psychic sight whatever. If we deal wholly in principle, we cannot be misguided. Intuition is a factor and we must make it a knowing. Question: Why has Jesus not appeared often in America? Answer: He does not localize himself and undoubtedly works here as much as in India. Question: Did Jesus suffer physically on the cross? Answer: No, one so highly illuminated could not suffer physically. If he had not wished to go through that experience, he could have sent back the energy and it would have destroyed the people about to crucify him. He showed the way. Question: Did Jesus exist for a number of years on this earth after the crucifixion? Answer: We know of no withdrawal from the body on his part. He lives today in that very body. That body is observable by anyone who comes in contact with it. Question: Do you mean that an individual known as Jesus of Nazareth has appeared in this country? Answer: Yes, naturally, if we do not call him by that name, he will not be here to us. Question: Is it through some special consideration that you are able to give out the teaching of the Masters? Answer: We are not privileged in any way over you yourself. When asked if there are masters in the United States, they reply that there are over 150 million masters here. Question: Would Jesus appear here if we needed him? Answer: He is always where he is needed. When he said, "Lo, I am with you always," he meant just that. Question: Does Christ mean the principle of life? Answer: It means the God principle flowing through the individual. Chapter 8. Mastery over Death. Dead yogi still lives, read the headlines in the Los Angeles papers, in reporting the passing of Paramahansa Yogananda, founder of the Self-Realization Fellowship in Los Angeles, California. Mortuary technicians today revealed that amazing story of Paramahansa Yogananda as his body lay in state at Self-Realization headquarters here. They say his body is still not technically dead 20 days after his death. The mortuary director of the cemetery declared that the body of Yogananda, who died during a speech at the Biltmore Hotel, was under daily observation by his staff from March 7 to March 27, when the bronze casket was sealed. The absence of any visual signs of decay in the dead body of Paramahansa Yogananda offers the most extraordinary case in our experience, said the mortuary director in notarized letter to Self-Realization Fellowship. Now in reference to Yogananda's body, that was not a miracle. We have seen bodies that have been lying in suspended animation, it has been claimed, for 600 years. My great-great-grandfather observed such a body a long time ago. That is just north of the line between Kashmir and the Pakistan of today, and it has been there ever since. That body, of course, was laid down as a sign of the displeasure aroused in India, first by the Mohammedan invasion, then child marriage, and also the deep caste system that invaded India. It has lain there ever since. It is about 14 years since I last saw the body. Also, I was in the vicinity during the First World War. At that time there were about 200 British soldiers trapped in the mountains north of this place, and they asked for safe transportation through this country, and as they came out into India again they observed this body. The captain had spent a great many years in India and had a great respect for the Hindu people, and they also respected him. He explained to his soldiers that, if they wished to observe this body, the company would halt here to see it, but they must give their word of honor that they would not attempt to touch the body, thus conforming to the wish of the people in that community. So many people have gone to view that body that the flagstones that lie around the canopy where this body is lying are worn through. After the soldiers had seen the body, they moved on a short distance and made their camp for the night. After the camp was ready, one of the sergeants asked the captain for leave. I had this directly from the captain. He said to the sergeant, "I believe I know what you wish to do. You are going to attempt to touch the body. Now, unless you give me your word of honor that you will not attempt to touch it, I will refuse you the leave." The sergeant gave his word, he got his leave, and went up to observe the body. At that time the officers carried what is known as a little quirt. He walked up to the body and attempted to touch it with that quirt and he fell dead. The captain told me I was the first one to be notified and, of course, my first thought was that someone was watching and had shot the man in revenge, but the captain said he went there immediately and made a thorough examination of the soldier's body and there wasn't a mark on it. This experience was reported to the War Department in London and is on file there today. In our laboratory we have made experiments with the condition called death. The tests have not been our own developments but have been carried out by a camera taking thousands of exposures a second. An image is imposed upon a running point of light. When photographed, the film records an assembly of points of light from which we get the completed image. This is then reproduced under high magnification and slowed down until it can be thrown on an ordinary screen. It can then be X-rayed, showing the complete formation of a life element. Many have come to us with a malady where they knew they had only a few more hours to live, volunteering themselves for observation. A physician in charge observes the time when what is ordinarily described as death take place. A scale records a loss in weight of about 11 ounces. The light emanation from the body is shown just above the scale. Today we know the life element has intelligence, movement, and volition to the extent that if we put an interference over it, it will go right up through the interference. It will go on up through the ceiling. We have checked this by variously placing 4 cameras. When a camera on the floor lost it, an upper one picked it up and showed that there was still evidence of the emanation of energy. We put the interference over it again and moved it to the side. The emanations went through the wall. When the camera on one side lost the emanation, the camera on the other side picked it up. We built a cone-shaped interference of aluminum, lead foil and asbestos to fit down over the body in an attempt to prevent the life element from escaping. In 3 instances, in less than 1 minute after we had closed the interference, the body came to life. When that life returned, the body had no semblance of the disease which it had before and it was evidently immune to that disease. We do not know why. We have a group experimenting with it now, and we look into the future when it will be shown that the reason why the life element has taken on a greater energy is so that, when it returns to the body, new conditions will be established. The 3 of whom I spoke all had the Black Plague. One of them now goes out to work with the Black Plague to show that he is immune. One is afraid of it and we have not urged him to go out, yet it is 7 years since the change and he has never contracted it again. The 3rd man has no understanding at all of what we are doing so that he is of no help. Before this life element leaves the body we can show that the vibrations are so lowered that the life element cannot remain, it is crowded out completely. But, when it is crowded out, it has the volition that has been created with it and it begins to assimilate energy. Thus in a very short time it can assume a new body under any conditions. We cannot say positively that this is a fact but we believe that many bodies are reassembled in from 1 to 3 hours after the experiment of death. In the case of the body lying in suspended animation for 600 years, it was suggested that this man was actively functioning in another body. We finally came to the place where this man was living in his supposed second body. We took his photograph and compared it with the one of the body in suspended animation and there was an exact resemblance. Again, we say another of his bodies. In all we found 4 different bodies. We know that many transport their bodies from place to place far more quickly than we could travel. So we arranged for 4 cameras in the hands of 4 men who could not be influenced and set them so that they could take photographs at exactly the same time. When we brought these photographs together, there was an identical resemblance between all 4 and the body in suspended animation. They were the same pattern. We have been told thousands of times that bodies are reassembled and, if a person lives a definite life, when that condition of death comes about, he can lay one body down and assemble a new one instantly. Thus we see why we should think differently of passing through death. It is a condition that we have brought upon ourselves so that we may pass into a greater condition with greater possibilities. Jesus often told us that we become that which we worship. If we find ourselves in limitation, we have worshipped limitation. Yet there isn't a human being who cannot worship perfection and by that attitude bring himself out of limitation. It is said today that the human body can resist any condition. If we stand with thought directing the God principle, we bring into play the power that surrounds us and so consolidate it that nothing can touch us. Perfection is always in existence, is always active and, when we stand one with it, it operates instantly. In many instances we see the very light emanating from the person's body, and when photographs are taken the light can be seen in the pictures. Light is life, or that medium in which life exists. It is quite evident that if, instead of placing old age as the goal, as we do, we placed youth there and stepped forward in determined, positive attitude, we would accomplish that state. Men and women today are achieving eternal youth. Many Eastern philosophers say, if you would worship youth, beauty, purity and perfection as definitely as you worshipped old age, you would accomplish that condition. In fact, you could not do otherwise. This is not, by any means, to decry old age, but it is to show the attitude of thought that brings it on. Would it not be better to reverence men for the youth, beauty, and measure of perfection they express rather than for old age? The very ideal belongs to a body widely accepted as created in the image of its maker. The divinity that man accepts as belonging to him reaches its highest expression in youth, beauty, and purity. We project conditions for ourselves to follow. We all admit that we can use it with the wrong attitude. But if we work toward perfection, perfection must result. No one accomplishes anything unless he becomes one with the object, forgetting all other conditions. Bringing it down to a very simple fact, if we state definite, positive ideas for ourselves to accomplish, then we do accomplish those very conditions readily. 1 point. 1 direction. Never allow the thought to vary for an instant to any negative condition. We have seen many changes and healings, positive conditions brought out of negative surroundings, without a word being spoken. This has been evidence to us that the principle does manifest with every attitude of positive thought. But the thoughts must always be conclusively positive. Those who have developed the power to accomplish these things at will we know as masters because they have mastered the forces of nature. They do not deal with conditions as if perfections were a rare phenomenon. Perfection is a natural state which may be attained by following natural conclusions, always. This body is indestructible, we ourselves allow this body to be destroyed. The very thoughts and feelings that we impose upon the body are the creators of age, disease, and disintegration. It is well known today that every cell in our bodies is renewed in less than a year. One of the greatest fallacies ever imposed on humanity is the 60 years and 10. We know men and women who are over 2,000 years old. Now if one can live 2,000 years, he can live for eternity. That is exactly what Jesus meant when he said, the last enemy to be overcome is death. Jesus taught that the Father is the principle by which humanity might accomplish, that life must live, that there is no mystery in his deeds and teachings. Principle cannot change. You can overlook it for eternity if you will, but the moment you return to it you will return to perfect condition. Your body takes on the result of that determination. One knowing and using that principle would not hesitate to walk upon the water. You have often been told that if one endeavors to accomplish and succeeds, all can. The power has always existed and always will exist. Why is it kept away? Because we put up the barrier of disbelief. The power that brings into existence a mechanical device could instantly bring into being the condition that device produces. We talk across great distances with the telephone. There are many people, however, who talk over great distances without any device whatever. Telepathy is recognized as an established fact. There is a great power contained in mental telepathy. It is God speaking to God. There are many who may say such a statement is sacrilegious. Such a statement is just as definite as the statement that we are living today. Humanity must ultimately learn that it is far better to live in positive influence at all times. Then we will take the great step forward. These are not conclusions of our group alone. Many people and groups are working along the same lines. Use of these facts will bring us into complete harmony, complete unity, where man has accomplished. Now it does not make any difference whether the body of humanity believes these things today. The facts are evident. When Jesus said he had overcome death, he spoke truly. Thousands upon thousands today, seeing the truth, will know that this body is immortal, pure, perfect, and indestructible. The mystery is gone and we are on the threshold of complete understanding. Questions and answers. Question: do you know of anyone other than the masters who has attained complete mastery over old age and death? Answer: yes, many people have accomplished this. You yourself may do it. Know you are a master of it and you are. I have seen people come right back, I know probably 60, who were gray-haired and old in appearance. They let go of all thoughts of birthdays, all thought of age, and today they look about 40. Question: what can we do with children when they go to school where they are taught one way, the church another way, and we teach truth at home? Will they not be confused? Answer: you can help your children so they will not be confused with the truth. You can give very simple statements of truth to your children and they will take them and they will go deeper than any other statements, i.e., the Christ is right within you. You will see what the children will answer finally about it. Children, many of them, have a greater measure of perception than adults realize. Question: in Volume 3 you state in effect that we can raise our vision just a little higher and literally see Jesus, if our attention is turned within. Answer: when you see the Christ, you will know that it is the same as Jesus, and that Christ is in everyone, every place, when you become associated. Question: have you actually seen and conversed with Jesus, or was it a mental apparition? Answer: no, it was not an apparition. The man is living and real and we can photograph him just as we can photograph you. Question: man being essentially a spiritual being and constantly seeking the light, how will he be able to recognize truth in our modern age when there are so many different beliefs and teachings and so much opposition? Answer: man is spirit. It doesn't matter what opposition we put up to spirit. Man is, always. There is no opposition to that, only our thoughts are in opposition. Question: is it true when we call on the Christ for help that he is with us and that he hears? Answer: these are his words regarding this: call upon the Christ within. That is nearer to you, that is you. Call upon the Christ within. He doesn't mind our calling upon him because he is working all the time with humanity. We make the error of looking without for the Christ. First call upon the Christ within, always. Then it extends right out to the whole universe and whatever we call for is ours.